Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's edition, I want to do a preview for Milan-San Remo because the race is coming up on Saturday and it's the first of the 5 monuments of the 2024 season. So we know the big one-day races are starting this weekend. Now, when I'm sitting down on the Chesterfield, I'm opening up the computer, looking on the internet, and I'm watching GCN's Daniel Lloyd do their previews for Milan-San Remo. A lot of it I agreed with, but he said one knucklehead comment in there where he said, Tadej Pogacar, the climbs here just aren't really steep enough for him to make a difference. But then afterwards, he picked him as his favorite to win Milan-San Remo. So which is it, Daniel Lloyd? Can the guy make a difference here at Milan-San Remo on the Sorpresa and the Poggio, or can he? I hate these kind of comments when they put them in there because I jump on the bike rides and I'm out doing my club ride or something here in Bend, Oregon, and someone comes up to me and goes, well, the climbs really aren't steep enough for Pogacar to make a difference. Of course it's steep enough for the Pogacar, the #1 ranked rider up here on the Butterfly Effect and Beyond the Coverage, to make a difference. We only have to look back at 2023, while GCN even looked back at 2023 and saw Tadej Pogacar blew the race up on the Poggio. Now you're like, Chris, why are you always griping on these guys? This is my problem I have with them when they make comments that it's not steep enough and we watch them blow it up, Tadej Pogacar that is, and then they pick him to win. Then if I back up to Paris-Nice, to the post-analysis there from Philippa York, she was saying how Primoz Roglic is a few kilos overweight. Now guys, I brought up these 2 jerseys for a reason. At the Vuelta a España, I was about 135, maybe 136 pounds when I won the Vuelta a España. When I won Tour of California in 2011, I was 137 pounds. This is a few extra kilos overweight. All right? That's 147 pounds right there. That's a few kilos extra weight. I can guarantee you Primoz Roglic is not a few kilos extra weight, and I can guarantee you the climbs, the Sorpresa and the Poggio for Tadej Pogacar, are big enough and steep enough to make a difference when we watch Milan-San Remo in Saturday's race. So when you see these comments, make sure you listen a little bit more in detail and listen to what they're saying. Daniel Lloyd said something that was wrong. It was even pre-recorded, so they could have taken that out and erased it later, but they left it in, and then he picked him as his #1 favorite. So anytime you see that, if you're on the group ride with me, please don't tell me the Sorpresa and the Poggio are not steep enough for Tadej Pogacar to make a difference. And please, for the love of the cycling gods out there, do not call Primoz Roglic fat. He is not fat, and that had 0 effect on why he lost Paris-Nice. Now let's get into the preview here because I'll give you what's really happening. Last year we saw as the racers came in, as they're going up to the last and final climb with about 10 kilometers to go to the Poggio, it's Bahrain Victorious on the front. If you watch my Butterfly Effect coverage after Milan-San Remo, I told you that Bahrain Victorious went into the climb in perfect position. 5 guys lined out. Mathieu, the year before's winner, he's sitting there with his team on the front. They're 100% dedicated for him. What I told you after that was the part that they need to fix. Once they get into the Poggio, you can slow the pace just a little bit for Mathieu because he's not one of the best climbers, and he's not Tadej Pogacar, who will affect the race on this climb. So you want to back the speed off. Even if you get swarmed a little bit of chaos back there will slow the pace down for a rider like Mathieu, who can climb, but of course not like Tadej Pogacar, who lit the race up in 2023. But the mistake they really made, back the speed off. Once you get into the right turn and the little zigzag when you start the Poggio, Bahrain Victorious or any of the sprinter teams that win that little zigzag into the Poggio, you have to back the pace off. I know when you back the pace off, the team's going to come around. One of the favorites, UAE Team Emirates possibly, could come around and go full gas. But your team going full gas will make it easier for the big-time fast climber teams. When they do hit the front, means they might not have had to ride the front for 1K. So you got to keep either the climb as slow as possible or make a rider like UAE Team Emirates, Tadej Pogacar, have his team on the front from the moment you get out of the zigzag so that you have more time for them to tire. Last year, Tim Wellens wouldn't have been able to do from the zigzag, the start of the Poggio, all the way to the top. But because Bahrain Victorious went so full gas afterwards, Tim Wellens is sitting back there like, this is great. 100 meters I don't have to pull. 200 meters I don't have to pull. 300 meters I don't have to pull. 400 meters I don't have to pull. 500 meters I don't. 600 meters. It was like 800 meters, maybe 1K before Tim Wellens jumped on the front and had to do his work. If he had to go a little bit sooner, Mathieu, maybe he tires out a little bit more. Tadej Pogacar's in the front longer, and then he blows his legs, and you're a little bit closer over the top. Possibly. Not saying that will work, Possibly you slow down, they hit from the side, he's got 3-4 teammates leading it out, doesn't make a difference, you get dropped anyways. But you making it harder, 100% as fast as it could possibly go on the Poggio was the mistake for Bahrain Victorious. Now, what was the mistake for Tadej Pogacar? He really didn't have any. It was absolutely flawless, I thought. When you looked at it, they're going up the Poggio. Tim Wellens gets on the front, like I said. He explodes the race, brings it down to 8 guys. We look at those 8 guys. Filippo Ganna's clearly on good form for Ineos. Quinten Hermans is suffering and is at the limit. He's going to open up a little bit of a gap and come off. And that's going to be about the time when Tadej Pogacar is going to throw in his tech. Filippo Ganna's on fine form, as I told you already in this video. He follows with Tadej Pogacar. Mathieu van der Poel does a work of art on Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert has to close the gap for Mathieu van der Poel. We got 4 riders in the front group with Tadej Pogacar going full gas. And Wout van Aert had to be in the wind just to close that gap up to Filippo Ganna and Pogacar, with Mathieu van der Poel sitting in the draft there of Wout van Aert, being able to save his legs for that last 200 meters. Big hit that he delivers to win Milan-San Remo. So this season, when I look at the differences in terms of 2023 and 2024, the biggest difference, the big guy from Visma Lease Bike is not here, Wout van Aert. Now, if I take you back to interviews from Mathieu van der Poel from years past, he has told us that it's easier for him to win races when Wout van Aert and all the big names are here and he's surrounded by the big names. He won't be surrounded by Wout van Aert when we get into Saturday's race, because the big guy's staying at altitude and he's training specifically for Paris-Roubaix and Flanders, which he doesn't have on his resume, versus here, Mathieu van der Poel has only one rider that's a favorite in front of him, and it's Tadej Pogacar. Now, in my book, I have Tadej Pogacar as the outright favorite, but of course the bookies are going to have probably Mathieu van der Poel as the outright favorite because he won last year. Without Wout van Aert, though, Mathieu van der Poel has a bigger, taller task because he's not going to be able to put the weight on the Wout van Aert's shoulders to do closing of those gaps of Tadej Pogacar. He's going to have to close them. He is the next guy in line when Tadej Pogacar puts on attack, whether if it's on the Cipressa or it's on the Poggio again like in 2023. Whichever climb he puts an attack on, everybody that can't follow Tadej Pogacar, and if one of those names is Mathieu van der Poel, everybody else in the group with Mathieu van der Poel is going to turn over, and they're going to go, you're the next guy that has to close. You have to close the gap up there to Tadej Pogacar. Much like we saw over at Paris-Nice, where Remco Evenepoel on those last climbs, especially on stage 6, when the 3 riders went up the road, Skilmos, the 2 Americans, Brandon McNulty and Jorgensen, when those 3 riders went up the road, everybody back there looked at Remco Evenepoel. When Tadej Pogacar goes up the road and throws in a big-time attack, Mathieu van der Poel has to be on the Slovenian's wheel, or he will be the next big guy with the target, dead bullseye target on him, to have to close the gap to Tadej Pogacar. Now, when we look at Tadej Pogacar's team, we compare it to last 2023 season at Milan-San Remo, he has 2 riders missing. Okay, Matteo Trentin is gone and Felix Großschartner's not here. Questionable on whether or not Felix Großschartner should be replaced because he looked pretty good at Paris-Nice, but he has Mark Hirschi replacing Felix Großschartner. Mark Hirschi's on good form too, and Mark Hirschi, if he's on top form, if he can arrive here with his best, which I don't know if he has, but he has decent form. If he has his best though, that's a good replacement for Großschartner. Matteo Trentin is more for along the coast and fighting for position, but Brandon McNulty, we know from Paris-Nice, the American rider is absolutely on stellar form right now, and he was sick before Paris-Nice, so now he's going to be further away from that sickness and have the mileage from Paris-Nice to come in here at Milan-San Remo to do something special for Tadej Pogacar. So they have 2 riders that switch, the rest of the team's the same. Once we get into the Cipressa, we saw last year, of course, it was on the Poggio where Tadej Pogacar put in his big attack. I believe up here on Beyond the Coverage, we see that UAE team members are throwing everything into the Cipressa to try to launch Tadej Pogacar earlier, and that's why Brandon McNulty's here, so that on that 5.5 kilometer climb at 4.1%, that's when we see Brandon McNulty start going to work and really start putting his climbing legs into effect for Tadej Pogacar to either wear down the peloton or throw an attack here at the Cipressa. I think we're going to see some kind of effort there from Tadej Pogacar to possibly try to blow things up and see if he can get the group reduced or go over solo. Remember, he went 81 kilometers solo at Strade Bianche, but there was no Mathieu van der Poel there. Problem is for Mathieu van der Poel, if he can't make the split on the Cipressa with Tadej Pogacar, he doesn't have the teammates around him to really be over the suppressor with multiple numbers up there for Alpecin de Koenig. And like I already told you earlier in the video, the bullseye will be on Mathieu van der Poel's shoulder to do the bulk of the work if Tadej Pogacar goes up solo. Everyone in there is going to look at him. Mads Pedersen has some help though, because he's got some strong guys here for Trek. He has Jonathan Milan, who won 2 stages at Trino Adriatico, and Jasper Stuyvens, who's won here at Milan-San Remo before. So I think we could look Mathieu van der Poel if he can't follow Tadej Pogacar with the attack on the suppressor or the Poggio, and I'm believing it's coming from the suppressor. I think Mathieu van der Poel has to look to the Trek team. I don't think his Alpecin de Koenig guys will really have the force to be able to help him get back to Tadej Pogacar. But you look at Trek, they most likely will have multiple numbers in the back if they can't follow Tadej Pogacar on the suppressor. Either way, the Slovenian is going to light things up, and UAE team members are going to go big on the suppressor to try to wear guys down. Possibly, like I said, he attacks there. If he doesn't, we go along the coast, and with 10 kilometers to go, we start the Poggio, and you know for sure, Tadej Pogacar, even though Daniel Lloyd said this climb's not steep enough for him to make a difference, he's going to light this race up, and he will make a difference. And that's why he's Daniel Lloyd's favorite and my favorite up here on Beyond the Coverage to win Milan-San Remo on Saturday. If the Slovenian wins, he takes his 4th monument. He has 3 Lombardis, 1 LBL, and of course he has 1 Tour of Flanders from last year in 2023. That was probably the biggest coup win on his resume for a guy of his size to be able to win a classic like Flanders. So if he can come here to Milan-San Remo and win on Saturday's race, he has 4 monuments already at his young age on his resume. And of course he has 2 Tour de France's and every other win throughout the European peloton. The only thing he'll be missing is Paris-Roubaix. And if you're going to ask, I'm going to tell you, yes, I believe Tadej Pogacar can win Paris-Roubaix. And I believe if he wins Milan-San Remo, the highlight's going to be throughout the next few seasons whether or not Tadej Pogacar is going to focus on winning Paris-Roubaix. And if you have all 4 and you're Tadej Pogacar, you might as well go ahead and try to win Paris-Roubaix. So this 2024 race on Saturday, Milan-San Remo, the first monument of the 2024 season, is going to be an important one for Tadej Pogacar, because without Wout van Aert here, that means a lot of power that can chase you back there, Tadej Pogacar, when we're going up the suppressor or the Poggio. There's a lot of power missing. This is the year for Brandon McNulty coming in for the first time to do Milan-San Remo to really light things up so Tadej Pogacar can get that 4th monument win. I think he's my outright favorite, and especially when we look at Mathieu van der Poel coming in here at his first race of the season. Of course, we know he's doing cyclocross races and cyclocross world champion. He's been training all the way coming in here to Milan-San Remo. I think we still know that Tadej Pogacar, with that 81-kilometer attack at Strade Bianche, is the outright favorite here to win Milan-San Remo. Mathieu van der Poel, second. You better stay on his wheel because there's no Wout van Aert to close the gap. Trek, you have solid numbers. You got to be the next team in there really with a shot here of winning Milan-San Remo with Mads Pedersen, Stuyvens, and of course Jonathan Milan, who's got 2 stages of Trino Adriatico this last week. So they got to be the hot favorite to try to help control the race early, along with UAE team members, and of course, along with Alpecin up front to control the break early in the race. Other outside favorites, Christophe Laporte's in there, Olaf Koy's in there. I think Christophe Laporte will be their main rider. He's coming from altitude here at the Milan-San Remo to start racing again. Koy just came off of winning 2 stages at Paris-Nice, but they weren't exactly something like we see here at Milan-San Remo with 300 kilometers almost. I know it's 284 kilometers, but once you add in the neutral zone section and the ride back to the hotel, these guys are all doing over 300K. It is a marvelous race. It's going to be a fantastic 2024 edition. And I think up here on Beyond the Coverage, it's the absolute best chance right now for Tadej Pogacar to win his 4th monument of his career. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. The race is going to be on Saturday, and you know the Butterfly Effect's going to cover all the details that you missed on Milan-San Remo's race. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.